Hello, my name is Kendall. Welcome back to another video. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Kendall. Before beginning this video, I do want to give out a little bit of a warning. I will be discussing a couple of sensitive topics, including death and unfortunate circumstances. So if that's something that you would prefer not to watch or you're sensitive to, feel free to watch some of my other videos or, something else a little bit more lighthearted. So without any further introduction, let's begin. This folklore is called Gashadokuro, and it originates from Japan. The translation of this word means rattling skeleton, which makes a whole lot of sense considering what they are. Gashadokuros are pretty much really giant, humongous skeletons that tower over people, and as they walk, they usually make a rattling noise. Now, I have heard that some of them do not make a rattling noise, which is terrifying because they do eat people and they do try to sneak up on you and get you. So those ones are probably the most concerning to me. The legend is extremely old, as it dates back over 1,000 years ago. And this is how it goes. I will be looking down to read this so that I don't leave anything out. Once there was a bloody rebellion against the central government by a samurai named Mazakuro. His daughter was a famous sorceress. When the samurai was eventually killed for his revolt, his daughter continued his cause. Using her black magic, she summoned a giant skeleton made up of the bodies of dead, rotting soldiers and the bodies of those who died of famine, the ones who were unknown and never got proper burial, and these were to attack the city. When I first went through this folklore and went through the story behind it, I was really wondering, why exactly did she pick these people in particular? Like people who had a rough life or had a rough ending to their life. And here is the answer to that. It is said that those picked to form the Gashadokuro were people who died with anger and pain in their hearts. The energy remains long after their flesh has rotted from their bones. As their body decays, their anger ferments into a grudge against the living, which twists them into a supernatural force. I've seen that some of them also have a lot of hurt because they really desire to have what they couldn't have here. So if someone had a lot of chaos in their life, they really desired to have peace in their life, they are almost like longing for that, and they can't have that. And generally just longing for what they once had. I also assume that specifically the famine and also the people who died in war connects to where the Gashadokuros are typically found, because they're typically seen in burial grounds or at battle sites. A lot of people say that this creature is too big and too powerful to defeat. Now, I think a part of this could play into the fact that over 1,000 years ago, they didn't have the same type of weaponry that we have now. So maybe what they had wasn't sufficient to kill a 60-foot skeleton that's powered by rage. But they do eventually die, and this is how. These skeletons, these Gashadokuros, are fueled through the energy of the bitterness and anger and hate from the bones of the people that formed it. Eventually, this energy does run out, and when it does, that is how the Gashadokuro dies. So as I said, they run off of energy from the bitterness and anger and all that. They do not eat. But what I will say is that does not mean that anyone that comes across this thing is in the clear, because it makes a special exception for humans. Usually late at night, despite its humongous size, it does do a great job of creeping up on people. And with its strength, it is able to just easily grab somebody, pick them up, and eat them. Which is, that is such an uncomfortable situation to think about, because imagine trying to run from a 60-foot, extremely strong skeleton. No, thank you. I think I'm okay. What I find very interesting about this story is the fact that people who had bitterness and anger in their heart when they passed away were the ones who were specifically chosen to build this skeleton. The negative emotions all stayed in their bones even after death. When you really think about it, it's not something that's necessarily difficult to conceive. People passing away with such anger and hurt and disdain in their hearts lingering. It is so often where, as people just in general, we have so much anger or bitterness in our heart that goes unresolved, and sometimes that can last for a very long time, especially because I think there's a common idea that it will just go away, even if you don't acknowledge it, even if you don't talk about it, even if you don't get help from it. But that's not always the case. Some people really do pass away with all this anger, all this bitterness in their heart. It's easy to look at this whole legend and just write it off as being a story, but in reality and truthfully speaking, I really do feel like anger, bitterness, jealousy, envy, anger, I think I already said that, but all of these really negative emotions, they really do store up in your heart, and it can start affecting your physical body. And to me, reading this legend really shows me what all of those emotions can become. Sometimes it seems super, super small, like that anger or that bitterness can seem super tiny, but over time it really starts to build up into a monster that you don't even recognize. So that is some food for thought, and that concludes today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing to see more videos like this. Share with a friend if you think that they would enjoy it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!